All right. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. As you can tell, I'm not in the studio today. As a matter of fact, I'm doing my first uh, Zoom show ever. I've never done a Zoom show, not like never done an In Touch News Zoom show. Like I've never actually hosted my own Zoom broadcast on my own Zoom channel. Like I've had a Zoom thing for a while, but everybody always invited me to theirs. So hopefully we have a nice and easy, smooth show. I'm your host, Life Malcolm, and this is the first live show of 2022. Um, yeah, well, the live Life Malcolm, the first live, the Life Malcolm show of 2022 on In Touch News. So I'm very happy to be back with you on the other side of the new year. I know how we do. We're going to start off as usual by offering deep and profound appreciations for the two people who make In Touch News happen from the top, DJ CEO and Mrs. DJ CEO, aka Tampa Bay Tammy. Really appreciative of everything that they've done for all these years with the newspaper and now with In Touch News Radio. And it's just really an honor and a privilege to be a part of the In Touch family, doing these incredible things in the Tampa Bay area. So I really want to appreciate and applaud them both for their hard work. um, Also, that appreciate my man DJ Bezel. See, I normally when I express my appreciation to DJ CEO and Mrs. DJ CEO, I can uh, I know I'm not gonna see them, like they're usually not there. I can usually see my man DJ Bezel when he's when I give him shout outs, but you're not there. And so hope you hear me, dog. One time for DJ Bezel doing this thing, man, somewhere out in cyber world. Uh, really want to appreciate all you do to contribute to the Life Malcolm show each week. Um, you know how we do it, right? So I I, I don't know, like Bezel, if you can hear me, Bezel. Well, yeah, I don't know if you can show a picture. Okay, maybe do I show a picture? Can I? I don't even know how to share my screen. I don't want people to see the wrong thing. I mess around and be done exposed some secrets that I want to, some things that I prefer to keep to myself. But yeah. So what we gonna do while we figure about maybe sharing the screen in the future? We gonna just go ahead and move forward with the Life Malcolm show. I told you that at the end of last year, as we brought the Life Malcolm show to a close for the 2021, I told you that my plan, my effort was to begin to bring a more structured show to you each week. And so this is my effort. Today we're gonna start it right here today, and we're gonna start by kind of bringing something old, some some things old into the new year, but we're gonna keep some of the old things too. For example, as has been our custom most recently, we're gonna start off with a little something light, and then we'll move to, of course, something heavy. And you know how we do. Also advise that we're gonna be bringing some political education to the Life Malcolm show. So we're gonna do that today. Our political education piece is going to be Combat Liberalism by Chairman Mao. No. Yeah. Combat Liberalism. That's what we're gonna do. By Chairman Mao Zedong, and so I'll read it. It's a nice, maybe 1.5 page lesson. I read it, talk about it just a little bit, and then talking about bringing in something old. We're gonna bring in a word from the word. We haven't done that in quite some time, so we're gonna come on in with the word from the word, and then we'll close it out with a tribute. Maybe the shirt is a precursor to what we'll talk about to close the show. So, something light. Let's talk about the end of the year. I had a super dope end of the year. Really want to appreciate my man Jeremy McClymont and the whole Acelia law firm team for having this magnificent firm dinner at the oh yeah, Bar One. My first time being there in Miami. Really nice spot. Big ups to him for it's an all African owned and almost all African staffed restaurant. The music was banging from the first time we walked in the door to the time we got up and left. I'm talking about. I mean, I have never been in a restaurant that played music like the old school pub. You know what I mean? The music was just banging all night. No, nothing but hits. Michael Jackson, Tyrone Davis, Tina Turner, Gladys Knight. Sometimes a little hip hop, little rap. Not that heavy, hard hip hop that some people get offended with sometimes these days. But I mean, I'm talking about stuff like Cool Mo D, Houdini and them. Just really, 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 really nice ambiance. The food though, Bar One, I ain't dissing you or nothing, but y'all know that y'all was kind of slack on the menu. But maybe it's not your fault because there's a lot of shortages around. I don't know if you noticed out there, like, oh, DJ cut the music. I forgot to thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to the Life Malcolm Show. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and being a part of this experience. But yeah, I don't know if you detected that there's some serious shortages going on. I went to the Cheesecake Factory. Actually, that's not true. I wanted to go to Cheesecake Factory, but I called ahead because earlier I was at Cheesecake Factory and they were like running out of stuff. So I called ahead this time and asked if they had the crab rangoon, I guess you call them, but whatever. They didn't have it. They had no crab. So they couldn't make the crab rangoon. They couldn't make crab bites and all that stuff. So that was like the first time. Then another restaurant around here I reached out to. Samurai Blue didn't have no hamachi kama for like days. And it was just like, so when I got to Bar One, and they said, I was like, oh, they had crab rangoon, stuffed crab rangoon on the menu. I was like, yo, y'all got crab? It's like, nah, we ain't got crab. I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's do the grouper bites. We ain't got no grouper. All right, cool. Let's do the. We ain't got that either. Let's do it. We ain't got that either. And it went on and on like that. It even got down to hummus. Let's do the hummus dip. Oh, we don't have it either. I'm like, who the hell runs out of hummus? But I will say, in light of the fact that they could not provide for us all that we wanted to order from the menu, we did get a complimentary bottle of wine from the staff and perhaps even management. And then the food that they did serve, the stuff they did have available, was right on, real good stuff. So that was fun. So that's kind of how the end of the year weekend began. So did that, stayed at a nice hotel in downtown Miami. Then got up early that morning and jumped out of the plane. 11,900 feet. First time ever skydiving. it was a blast. My guy, what was his name? Andre. My guy Andre, who was the guy in tandem with me, had been doing it for 22 years. So, and I'm the first one out the plane, right? So I don't get to see how everybody else gets lined up and gets ready to jump out. I'm right by the door, and the door on the plane just like a little piece of plastic, and he's like, okay, and hang your hang your legs out the door, and when I say three, you're gonna jump out the door, and I'm gonna push you. And so we like right around, I guess 8,000 to 9,000 feet as we ascend into the sky. Like, okay, hang your legs over. And I hang my legs out the window, and he like, okay, and legs just blowing and stuff in the wind, and looking down, you don't see nothing but clouds and ground. And then he like 1, 2, 3, boom, and we out that joint, and we just free falling for like a whole minute, just free falling. For a little bit, we were like going straight down, head down. And then he kind of like got us level, and we just like flying. And after about a minute or so of that, popped the parachute. And I tell you, gentlemen, if you've never been skydiving before, you definitely want to make sure that your harness is appropriately seated in the area, because if not, when the parachute pops, it's gonna snatch up on you, and might be a little uncomfortable and snug. And I'm up there feeling a little bit of tightness, but I don't want to pull on anything because I don't want nothing to come loose while we're in the sky. So anyway, though, we got a cool video and all that. After that, came home, went to the Rose Bar, and hung out with my man Sean Wood one time for S. Dot, and my man Baye Perry. Absolutely beautiful people, very hospitable. Made sure I had what I wanted, what I needed. Really, really good dining experience. And so New Year's Day, Friday, of course, is New Year's Eve. New Year's Day is my birthday. And so get home Friday night after the Rose Bar and fell asleep before midnight. And so people were calling right after midnight, my mother, brother, sister, daughter, people like that, and I'm just missing all the calls. But it was fun, waking up to the calls. Then after the air adventure on Friday, we took a Segway tour, and the Segway tour was dope, man. Took the tour through the Riverwalk. I've never been all through the Riverwalk, but I think this Segway tour permitted me to see all the busts. If you in Tampa, yeah, this little area called Riverwalk, and the white people who run the city saw fit to put the heads of white people, the bust, kind of like the Hall of Fame trophies in the NFL, like that little thing. Not nearly as pretty and shiny as the NFL joints, but that little thing, So they got a bunch of heads all around the Riverwalk. Most of them white people, and they tell really nice stories about these white people who I'm sure were, enslavers, exploiters, definitely colonizers, etc. And then every now and then you got an African here and an African there. So it was cool to observe get an opportunity to see the busts, read some of the stories and fairy tales of Tampa. Learned a little bit about some of the history of some of the locations along the Riverwalk. For example, Armature Works. Learn a little bit of history about that. I don't want to spoil the tour for you if you go, so I won't tell you. But learn some things. Being native to Tampa and living here for quite some time, the tour itself really didn't offer me a bunch of new sights. and really not a bunch of new information. I can see how it would be really interesting and helpful for tourists and whatnot. But was able to get out there, did learn a few things, and I'd never been on a Segway before, so that was cool. Just being on the Segway, it was a very intuitive machine, made me want one. And after the Segway, so that was air, then the Segway was land, then bam, did the water taxi tour, which was cool. Again, same kind of situation, being native and local for quite some time. Not a whole lot of new sights, not a whole lot of new experiences, but nevertheless, did get the opportunity to, just do something different, be on the water taxi, hanging out. Did see a lot of the stuff I usually drive by 40, 50 miles an hour. Got a chance to see in slower motion and fuller detail. And how about this? Speaking of restaurants running out of stuff, the water taxi, one of the stops was Rick's on the River. Gonna eat there. Called Rick's. I was like, yo, y'all got some oysters? No, we don't have no oysters. So didn't go there. Went to this other spot called M-Bird at the Armature Works. And now I think that's like my new little favorite spot to hang out. Been there a few times since then. Bumped into my cousin JR, and that reconnection was quite dope. So all in all, man, I just really, really had and shoot. The birthday calls and birthday texts and Facebook messages were tremendous. And I tell you what, there were hundreds too. And I tell you what I did, yo. I made it my business. To respond to every one of those calls and every one of those texts and every one of those messages on Facebook and Instagram on the day. If they text on the day of my birthday, I did that. And so, calls kept coming in. So I did my best to respond to the ones who came in after the first, but definitely hit everybody back on the first because I thought it's so cool that they thought enough of me to reach out on a very busy day for all of us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my something light. I don't have my man DJ Bezel giving me my signals, so I'm out here, trying to keep my own time to make sure I give you the structured program that I promised. So yeah, let's move into the political education piece. So one of the things I want to do, and I might do this each week, because I think it's important. So this is a program from the African People's Socialist Party, from back in the day too, probably. Let me see what year it is. Oh, from 2004. See that? Been a member of the African People's Socialist Party for a long time. Been around the African People's Socialist Party for a long time. Was a member here. I'm a member now, but always been close to the party. And the party many, many years ago came up with this African pledge, and I'm gonna share it with you, and hopefully we can read it together in the future when I know how to do all my screen sharing stuff. But this is the African pledge drafted by the African People's Socialist Party. I pledge allegiance to my African people. I pledge to develop my mind and body to the greatest extent possible. I will learn all that I can in order to give my best to my people and our struggle for liberation through revolution. I will keep myself physically fit, building a strong body free from drugs and other substances which can weaken me and make me less capable of defending myself, my family, and my African brothers and sisters. I will unselfishly share my knowledge and understanding with others in order to bring about change more quickly. I will discipline myself to direct my energies thoughtfully and constructively rather than wasting time in idle hatred. I will train myself never to hurt or allow others to harm my African brothers and sisters, for I recognize that we need every African man, woman, and child to be physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. These principles I pledge to practice daily and to teach them to others in order to unite my people in the struggle for freedom and independence. Uhuru. So yeah, that's the African pledge, and yeah, right on. So pick up on that. Matter of fact, we this broadcast I'm sure is going to be available for you, so you can go back and watch it and learn it and repeat it if you so choose. All right. So before we do political education pieces on the Life Malcolm, so we're definitely going to open up with that African pledge. And I don't have my glasses on because I'm told when I'm doing this kind of thing on the laptop, the glare kind of obscures my eyes to the viewer. So if I struggle a little bit as I read, just appreciate your patience. All right, this is Combat Liberalism by Chairman Mao Zedong, revolutionary communist leader of China, who is largely the reason for why China is what it is today in the world, and not some Uncle Tom lick-spittle country nation like once upon a time. They used to say you don't have a Chinaman's chance because Chinese had it pretty rough. But thanks to Chairman Mao and his revolutionary dedication, discipline, he brought China, as they say in church, from a mighty long way. So this is called Combat Liberalism. I'm going to read through this right quick. Talk about it just a little bit if we can. We stand for active ideological struggle because it is the weapon for ensuring unity within the party and the revolutionary organizations in the interest of our fight. Every communist and revolutionary should take up this weapon. But liberalism rejects ideological struggle and stands for unprincipled peace, thus giving rise to a decadent Philistine attitude and bringing about political degeneration in certain units and individuals in the party and the revolutionary organization. Liberalism manifests itself in various ways. To let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship when a person has clearly gone wrong, and refrain from principled argument because he is an old acquaintance, a fellow townsman, a schoolmate, a close friend, a loved one, an old colleague or old subordinate, or to touch on the matter lightly instead of going into it thoroughly so as to keep on good terms. The result is that both the organization and the individual are harmed. This is one type of liberalism. To indulge in irresponsible criticism in private instead of actively putting forward one's suggestions to the organization. To say nothing to people to their faces, but to gossip behind their backs, or to say nothing at a meeting, but to gossip afterwards. To show no regard at all for the principles of collective life, but to follow one's own inclination. This is a second type. To let things drift if they do not affect one personally. To say as little as possible while knowing perfectly well what is wrong. To be worldly wise and play safe and seek only to avoid blame. This is a third type. Not to obey orders, but to give pride of one's place. Not to obey orders, but to give pride of place to one's own opinions. To demand special consideration from the organization, but to reject its discipline. This is a fourth type. To indulge in personal attacks, pick quarrels, vent personal spite, or seek revenge instead of entering into an argument and struggling against incorrect views for the sake of unity or progress or getting the work done properly. This is a fifth type. To hear incorrect views without rebutting them, and even to hear counter-revolutionary remarks without reporting them, but instead to take them calmly as if nothing had happened. This is a sixth type. To be among the masses and fail to conduct propaganda and agitation, or speak at meetings, or conduct investigations and inquiries among them, and instead to be indifferent to them, and show no concern for their well-being, forgetting that one is a communist and behaving as if one were an ordinary non-communist. This is a seventh type. To see someone harming the interests of the masses and yet not feel indignant or dissuade or stop him or reason with him, but to allow him to continue. This is an eighth type. To work half-heartedly without definite plan or direction, to work perfunctorily and muddle along so long as one remains a monk, one goes on tolling the bell. This is a ninth type. To regard oneself as having rendered great service to the revolution, to pride oneself on being a veteran, to disdain minor assignments while being quite unequal to major tasks, to be slipshod in work and slack in study. This is a 10th type. To be aware of one's own mistakes and yet make no attempt to correct them, taking a liberal attitude towards oneself. This is an 11th type. We could name more, but these 11 are the principal types. They are all manifestations of liberalism. Liberalism is extremely harmful in a revolutionary collective. It is a corrosive which eats away unity, undermines cohesion, causes apathy, and creates dissension. It robs the revolutionary ranks of compact organization and strict discipline, prevents policies from being carried through, and alienates the party organizations from the masses which the party leads. It is an extremely bad tendency. Liberalism stands from petty bourgeois selfishness. It places personal interests first and the interests of the revolution second, and this gives rise to ideological, political, and organizational liberalism. People who are liberals look upon the principles of Marxism as abstract dogma. They approve of Marxism but are not prepared to practice it or to practice it in full. They are not prepared to replace their liberalism by Marxism. These people have their Marxism, but they have their liberalism as well. They talk Marxism, but practice liberalism. They apply Marxism to others, but liberalism to themselves. They keep both kinds of goods in stock and find a use for each. This is how the minds of certain people work. Liberalism is a manifestation of opportunism and conflicts fundamentally with Marxism. It is negative and objectively has the effect of helping the enemy. That is why the enemy welcomes its preservation in our midst. Such being its nature, there should be no place for it in the ranks of the revolution. We must use Marxism, which is positive in spirit, to overcome liberalism, which is negative. A communist should have largeness of mind, and he should be staunch and active, looking upon the interests of the revolution as his very life and subordinating his personal interests to those of the revolution. Always and everywhere he should adhere to the principle and wage a tireless struggle against all incorrect ideas and actions, so as to consolidate the collective life of the party and strengthen the ties between the party and the masses. He should be more concerned about the party and the masses than about any private person, and more concerned about others than about himself. Only thus can he be considered a communist. All loyal, honest, active, upright communists must unite to oppose the liberal tendencies shown by certain people among us and set them on the right path. This is one of the tasks of our ideological front. All right, that's it. We're going to go to our first and only break of the evening. This is the Life Malcolm Show, y'all. I'm your host, Life Malcolm. We'll be right back. How you doing? How's your day? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show. I'm your host, Life Malcolm. We just read through Combat Liberalism by Chairman Mao. If you just joined us, uh, that was our political education piece. I want to talk just a little bit about it. One of the things I want to say about Combat Liberalism piece is Mao and most of the Chinese communists did follow Karl Marx and Marxism. However, I'm not a Marxist. I'm an African internationalist, and African internationalists do not follow Marxism. Instead, what and I, you know what? I don't even know. I guess because it's self-proclaimed that Mao said or alludes to following Marxism. I'm not really sure if, given the tool of African internationalism, Mao would believe that he was a Marxist. Because what history, I believe, proves is that Karl Marx used a method of investigation called dialectical materialism to answer questions, to investigate questions and answer questions he had about his existence and the existence of other Europeans in the world at that time. Chairman Mao took that same method of investigation, dialectical materialism, and used it to investigate and answer questions about the existence of Chinese people in the world at that time. Similarly, Chairman Omar used to tell us, took this method of investigation, dialectical materialism, and used it to investigate the world and answer questions about the conditions of African people in the world at the time he first began to use that method of investigation, and even today. And of course, Chairman Amali Shatella, through that process, developed African internationalism, the theory of the African working class and the African international revolution. And African internationalism comes to uh, some starkly different conclusions than Marx did, for various reasons that we won't discuss in this particular study at this time. But I just wanted to say that when towards the end of the piece, Combat Liberalism, you would hear you heard me read Mao refer to Marxism, 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 and I think that even obviously Mao using this investigative tool that Karl Marx might have made popular, and no doubt he made it popular, but might have made it more popular than any other European. Uh, uh, it's easy to call the principles of combating liberalism Marxism, but that philosophy, though the philosophy of combating liberalism and adhering to the principles of discipline laid out by Chairman Mao do not belong to Karl Marx and those people who would call themselves Marxists, etc. It's a tool to all those who would use it. So if you ever pick up the piece, African sister and brother, and read Combat Liberalism, wherever you see Marxism, you can just replace that with African internationalism. I think it's a very good piece, though, because even for those who have not yet joined the Revolutionary Party of African people, the African People's Socialist Party, the principles laid out in Combat Liberalism, at the very least, prepare those people who are not tied to revolutionary organization to become tied to revolutionary organization. These principles you can exercise in all areas of your life. And I mean, even like this one piece where Mao starts and calls it one type of liberalism, where he says to let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship when a person has clearly gone wrong. and refrain from principled argument because he is an old acquaintance, a fellow townsman, a schoolmate, a close friend, a loved one, an old colleague, or old subordinate, or to touch on the matter lightly instead of going into it thoroughly so as to keep on good terms. The result is that both the organization and the individual are harmed. This is one type of liberalism. And so, it's applicable. This idea of combating liberalism is applicable to many areas and many different types of relationships. And so, if you pick up on this and work diligently to combat liberalism in your own life on a daily, I'm sure that you'll whip yourself into revolutionary shape in no time and be ready to join the African People's Socialist Party. All right. So now for an old time favorite of the Life Malcolm Show, a word from the Word. So a word from the Word is this thing I started doing on the Life Malcolm Show because, a lot of people are liberal when it comes to the Bible and their religious ideas or what have you. I talk a lot to people who do Christianity, and their ideas about the Bible and about Christianity, about Christ, what they call Jesus Christ, don't really match up to the real world in history. Dialectical materialism is based on historical materialism, which is just applying materialist ideas to historical occurrences in order to analyze them and come to some conclusions about what occurred, especially when there might be some conflict and confusion between some people's narrative and what material reality says, right? So I started trying to, because I grew up in the Bible, grew up in the church. Those of you who are watching for the first time might not know that, but those of you who've been with the Life Malcolm Show for, through the first season, I can say that now. I guess we're on our second season. Those of you who, hung out with the Life Malcolm Show through the first season, know that I grew up in church and have that kind of background, and so I had to kind of reconcile my current materialist ideas with my former idealist ideas, where stuff just didn't make sense when I read it in the Bible. I read it, just didn't make sense. For example, like how God can take clay and take a lump of clay and make it in His image, and then blow into it, and then now it becomes a man. Just knowing what I know about biology and physiology and what have you, couldn't reconcile those two things. The idea of the lady where in Sodom and Gomorrah, she walking into something, and she was told not to look back, and she looked back, and the next thing you know, she turned into a pillar of salt. Now, I've never even seen a pillar of salt, but I just don't know if a person could turn into anything like whatever a pillar of salt might be. And so certainly these ideas, like, of course, Jesus walking on water and things like that, just, in my mind, it couldn't just be made up stuff, couldn't just be in the Bible to fool readers or trick us. This, after studying history and reading myriad books and listening to myriad teachers and scores of preachers, it finally, as my friend Fred would say, dawned on me. that everything in the Bible isn't meant to be taken literally. Like every word isn't meant to be taken literally. And so when I came up with that idea, uh, uh, it started helping me understand, or not necessarily understand, but reconcile the contradictions between what the Bible says and what I understand to be real and practical and possible. And when I would share it with people, they'd be like, whatever, whatever, whatever. Even last year when we started last season on the Life Malcolm Show and we started doing a word for the word, a word from the word, people would seem to have some appreciation for the concept, and even some of the expressions of the concept they heard on episodes of the Life Malcolm Show. But I don't think they were actually convinced, because I didn't come with like some kind of scripture that says in the Bible shows you not, even the Bible demonstrates that every word ain't meant to be taken literally. And I knew it the whole time. I just never thought about it that way until I was in a discussion with someone whom I love, and we're real close. But like Miles say, you can't let things slide for sake of peace and friendship. When the person is clearly gone wrong. And I'm not saying they're gone wrong. I'm just saying that you got to struggle. You got to have a principle struggle. And so it made me think. Made me think. And it dawned on me that it's in the Bible. The Bible itself demonstrates that every word in the Bible, everything Jesus said, for example, according to the Bible, ain't meant to be taken literally. I'll prove it to you. John chapter 3, verse 1. That's St. John chapter 3, verse 1. I'm reading from the King James Version. It says, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. The same came to Jesus by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from God, for no man can do these miracles that thou doest except God be with him. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And then check out Nicodemus now. This is a ruler. I guess you gotta be, somewhat worldly and worthy of being a ruler of the Jews. So, it's not, Nicodemus wasn't no slouch. And he said, well, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Like Nicodemus, stuck, he trying to take the word literally, trying to take this, ye must be born again literally. And Jesus said, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I say unto thee, ye must be born again. In other words, just because the Bible says, Jesus said, this born again thing is one of the most significant fundamentals, foundations of your Christianity. You've got to be born again, born again, born again, born again. But Jesus makes it clear. He didn't mean that literally. You have to use your brain, Nicodemus, and know good and well that a man can't get old, go back in his mother's womb, and then come out again. So there's another one too that Jesus, right? Jesus was talking to the story of the rich young ruler, trying to find it, and Jesus said, and again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Again, this is Jesus talking. He says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. And I don't know if you've ever seen a camel, but I'm sure that you've seen a needle, and the eye of the needle is a little hole in the needle. And Jesus, the rabbi, teacher, certainly could not have meant that it was easier for a camel. Camel is huge, like big, the hump on his back. The camel nose ain't nothing on the camel. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a camel hair can get through the eye of a needle, like the needle, the sewing needle. Maybe. I never tried to thread the eye of a needle with a camel hair, but I do know that ain't no other part of a camel can get through the eye of a needle. And then, upon doing some investigation and searching and, just reading other materials, you'll learn that the eye of the needle to which Jesus referred in this verse was likely the passageway in the wall to, I believe it was Jerusalem, one of the walls over there. They had to get through the wall. And I once heard a man talk about what a camel had to do in order to get through the eye of the needle, that opening in the wall. A camel is a pack animal, a tremendous pack animal. Carries, you could pack your house on the camel and travel. Back then, not necessarily now. You can't put a refrigerator on a camel, but back in the day when you just had some, baskets and tapestries and what have you, some clothes. But the camel would have to first kneel down, and the camel got those funny knees, like they bend. You got 4 legs, they bend. You got to first kneel down. You got to get this big, proud animal down on his knees, and then you have to unpack the camel, and then while the camel is on its knees, you have to lead the camel through the opening in the wall. On his knees, scooting. Big animal, scooting on his knees. Tedious process. And I heard I can't remember, a preacher, motivational speaker, what have you, make the analogy that if you want to get into the kingdom of God, then what you have to do is humble yourself, bow down, unpack all unpack all of the stuff with which you are heavy laden, and then be willing to be led into the kingdom. So, but yeah, everything ain't necessarily in the Bible for its literal meaning, and that doesn't mean that those words and those sayings and those stories aren't just as true, just as powerful, just as beneficial. This means that the real power in those words is understanding the real meaning of those words. And yeah, all right. So I thought that was something, just to share. Okay, that's the word from the word. So today, talked about, we had something like, I enjoy sharing my end of the year stuff with you. I wish we could communicate, like, some kind of, we got to figure that out, because I would love to hear from you, how you spent your end of the year, and even, bringing in the new year. Then we read the African pledge, something that we're going to make a staple on the Life Malcolm Show. I think it's a great guide on how we should treat ourselves, how we should treat each other, and how we should live in order to be a benefit to our community and our people. Then, of course, talked about combat liberalism on the political education side of things. And then just finished up a word from the word. So I hope you enjoyed the Life Malcolm Show so far. And as we come to a conclusion, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about some stuff that you know is, that we got to talk about. 7 years ago, today makes 7 years since I kissed my baby's face for the last time. My son, my one and only son, Life Lazarus Coleman. 7 years ago, on January 5th, 2015, bandits, as you may know, came to my home and shot my son, killed him. And yeah, it's been an incredible process learning how to live in this world without him. And I would be remiss if I did not forever remember that day, January 5th, and this day, January 11th, when I last kissed his face and closed that box on him, and then took him to a grave and buried him with my own shovel. His face was so cold. I remember, how many people came out to the funeral. Over 1,000 people at the funeral for this young man, and it was a tremendous show of love and support. And I think about where he was at that time at 18 years old, and where I was around that time at 18 years old. He will of course be 25 now, and I wonder where he would be, and if my life is any kind of some kind of measurement. He would be a 25-year-old looking for answers and finding them. Then I wonder if he had lived to be 47 like I am now. If he, how amazing he would have been. I'm sure that he would have been better than me. I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a Juris Doctor, and I'm a practicing attorney in Florida. And I can only imagine what more he would have accomplished had bandits not snatched him away from our community. And so not only do we do a thing every 5th of the month right here on the lane called Grilling Chill in the Community Building, but every year though, on January 5th and January 11th, we do take a moment to call the name Life Lazarus Coleman and to remember his significance in our lives and in our community. And so I appreciate you allowing me to share that moment with you. There's also another moment though that I got to talk about right around the same time. You may know, man, 2005 was just an incredible year for me. The day bandits murdered my son in my front yard, when I left the hospital after watching him die, to get a phone call from the public defender asking me why I wasn't in court for pre-trial, because I had to go to trial the following week on some trumped up charges. Tampa Police Department and the Hillsborough County animal worker put some trumped up charges on me, and the state of Florida picked them up and tried me. I mean, took me to trial. And the woman with whom I lived at the time, she had some of the same charges. They dropped her charges, and same charges, same exact charges. They dropped her charges, but tried me for the same charges. Took me to trial, and I raised that because the day after I kissed my son for the last time, I was in trial for the first time. So tomorrow marks the 7th anniversary that I was on trial for felony animal. No, they dropped. They dropped it down from felony animal cruelty to just animal cruelty, which was a felony though. But animal cruelty was it something? It was something like 7 years and 7. I could have done 7 years in prison. So I think it was resisting arrest without violence, battery on a cop, and animal cruelty. So something like that could have sent me to prison for 7 years, 7 years ago, and they tried but doggone it, I had some tremendous people around me, including the public defenders. They worked hard, and we kicked their butts. And yeah, so uh, January 15th was the day we got the word that we were not guilty and were able to move on in a tremendous way. And now we're suing them in federal court and looking forward to kicking their butts one more time. And on that note, just want to say I really enjoyed my time with you for this hour. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think about this new format of the Life Malcolm Show. Something light, a little bit of political education, word from the word, and then, you know, some kind of significant conclusion to round it all out. All right, I gotta go, and we'll see you soon, man. To be continued.